I am currently on a sabbatical and my first stop is Portugal. Welcome to my fourth or last day in Lisbon. I always feel a little bit nostalgic whenever I leave this city. I always have such a nice time here. A friend told me that Lisbon is changing a lot. Many locales are shutting down, making way for big global corporations, a phenomenon which is sadly happening all over the world. The first time I was in Lisbon was in 2015, a trip with my mother, and a lot has changed since then. In my own little way, I wanted to gather these details from yesteryear into my handbag of beautiful images in my mind. After checkout from my apartment, I took a long morning walk taking in old vintage signs, antique woodwork, and cracked facades in the case that they fade away beneath the scaffolding of renovation like a gentrifying magician revealing their next magic trick. Following with this theme, I stopped by the beautiful Café Brasileira, ready for some me time. A Brasileira de Chiado is a magnificent space filled with history. It had been founded by Adriano Teles, an immigrant who had settled in Alvarenga, Brazil. He had married the daughter of one of the largest coffee producers there and was responsible for introducing coffee to the Portuguese. Over time, it also became a rendezvous spot for many intellectuals such as Fernando Pessoa, which served as inspiration for paradoxical concepts and ideas. I'm a bit embarrassed to say this, but I have a weakness for going to cafes where great writers have worked. I secretly imagine myself absorbing some of that literary greatness that is hopefully still magically floating in the air after all these years. The waitress was also kind enough to lend me Fernando Pessoa's book for more inspiration. I then ordered a galão and a beef croquette with mustard and sat down to write. A group asked me if they could share the table with me, and I grumbled, sure. But what about my me time? I groaned to myself. But their openness and friendliness chipped away at my social walls, and we ended up chatting over our coffees. Sylvia, a Hungarian-Canadian interpreter and painter living in Lisbon, Eva, a Hungarian interpreter who grew up in Cuba, and Bob from Oxford. Chatting with them from topic to topic amidst laughs and sips of coffee, it warmed my heart that the whole world was so big and small at the same time. Soon it was time to leave the cafe. It was time to go to my next destination of my Portuguese trip, Coimbra. I took the train to meet Antonio at the Oriente station, an impressive architectural structure designed by Spanish architect Santiago Calatrava. After a lightning speed tour around the area, we would embark on a Flixbus to our destination. The beautiful thing is that Coimbra is Antonio's hometown, and I was honored to be hosted by him to show me around his city. After settling at his home, we ordered some frango da churrasco or chicken piri-piri, which unfortunately didn't come with a piri-piri sauce, migas, which is cabbage, beans, and bread, rice, and crisps. Despite piri-piri gate, the meal was delicious, and it was what two hungry travelers needed. After talking well into the night, we then turned in to sleep. After all, we would have a lot to see the next day in Coimbra. And that was my fourth day in Portugal. Thank you for joining me.